So welcome to this webinar with the title Scaling IoT, the Connected Car Guides the Way. This is a webinar based on the IoT predictions report that we at Telenor IoT has published together with the company Omdia. And who are we then that will be hosting this event? Well, my name is Marie Högberg, and with me I have my colleague Sanin Selmanovic. And just as a short introduction to you, who am I? And as I said, my name is Marie Högberg, and I'm heading up Telenor IoT's ambition towards automotive. And I have spent my whole career, actually around 20 years, working with cars and connectivity, both on the car OEM side and on the telco industry side, as now with Telenor IoT. Originally from the far north in Sweden, moved down to Germany, spent a couple of years there, and that's also where I got introduced to the topic around connected cars for the first time, working with the development of eCall. And all of this took me through the early days of Telenor Connection establishment and being part of forming the connected car offer that we have on the market today. I also had the opportunity to work together with colleagues at Volvo Cars for a couple of years and heading up the connectivity strategy at that company. But now back at Telenor IoT, and as I said, driving our ambitions towards the automotive vertical.
My name is Sanin, born and raised in Germany, moved to Sweden 20 years ago. I'm filling the role of the technical lead for automotive at Telenor IoT, making sure that we have a proper value proposition in terms of a technical portfolio that is appealing to our customers and streamlined and adapted to the customer's needs. My experience comes from a telco world, which has been seasoned with experience from Volvo Cars, where I've worked for 6 years, making sure that Volvo Cars has the proper connectivity offer in terms of technical capabilities throughout global deployments and regional deployments.
So very nice to be able to do this together with you. So let's see how we take us through this content that we have prepared for you. And for those of you that are new to Telenor IoT, very quickly about our company. And we are the IoT unit within the Telenor Group. So we are solely focusing on IoT customers and have been doing so for almost 20 years. And today we operate around 25 million SIM cards all across the globe, and we as a company have been on a steady growth journey since we started in 2008. Today we have colleagues all over the world addressing customers and needs, and since this is a webinar about automotive primarily, but we will also touch upon other verticals, we also here show some of the customers that we have the pleasure to work with. Yes, over to you, Sanin.
As it was announced earlier on by Marie, this webinar is about the IoT predictions report for 2025, which we have done together with the company called Omdia. And we are focusing on 3 main topics today. The first topic is connectivity orchestration. This is and becomes more and more important when the complexity of connectivity solutions increase. We will be touching upon eSIM and eUICC technologies, which have been around for quite some time, but are seasoned and improved by GSMA standards, like the latest standard, which is GSMA SGP32, which brings a lot of flexibility into the mix. And then we will be looking at future trends and predictions when it comes to data, security, regulations, politics, and how all of this impacts our world and our customers' worlds. So let us dive into and have a first look into what we have ahead of us. So in 1996, believe it or not, General Motors has deployed the first connected car when everything was analog. No 2G, no 3G, no 4G. It was in fact 1G. And since then, a lot of things have happened, and the whole industry and connectivity as such has evolved with new technologies that have come up, but also the abilities to address certain solutions or certain use cases. They have increased and they have evolved. So what has happened from 2010 and to 2015, Marie?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have been part of this journey more or less since the start, and even before 2010, I started to work with eCall, as we said. It was back in 2007. The industry was developing the standards for this very critical connected feature. Launched on the market as a standard in 2018, so it took a while to agree on the standard and implement it. But between that, as you said, things started to happen, also without eCall being in place. And what we started to see around the year of 2010, 12, 15, was first telematics solutions being launched for connected cars. And the main driver for this was the fact that the apps, the connected car apps, were introduced to the markets, and some very critical user-centric services like the heater starter, very important for people, for example, here in the Nordics. And that was a triggering point that actually defined a first feature that really came with a lot of customer value. So that is like what started to happen around that time. But as we see it today, it hasn't stopped there. Things have continued to evolve. And a little bit behind 2015, we also saw some first attempts to deploy Wi-Fi hotspot solutions in the car. But I don't know, Sanin, where are we today? 2025, and looking ahead, how far has the industry come?
Yeah, I would say it was not really a fast forward. The industry has developed in a pace which it is used to. In 2025, we are actually seeing those things that we have discussed in the past years taking off and become sharp. So in-car Wi-Fi, internet connectivity, open internet access in the cars is more and more becoming a trend, a staple in some sense. And this needs to be catered for by operators like us. And at the same time, this is a collaboration with the car OEMs that today are putting these requirements on operators like us, but also are putting this as part of their offer in their cars. Further, I would say that SDVs, software-defined vehicles, are on the rise. This requires an always connected car, and connectivity just needs to work. There is no way around it. We are also looking at trends that include Wi-Fi connectivity being used by cars, satellite connectivity. So we're looking at a complex world today compared to how it was before. But I would say the years that we had before were also seen as complex in some sense. But the complexity has truly increased.
And may I ask a question to you already here? And I was thinking there is a lot of discussion in the industry about autonomous vehicles and the need for connectivity. I guess that is also something that we need to think about as a connectivity provider, and that we start to experience, but still is a little bit around the corner. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. We are seeing autonomously driven vehicles in confined areas, but also in public areas. So what would it mean that a car that is autonomously driven loses connectivity? So here we need to make sure that quality is on top and is our primary lead star in some way. So it puts a lot of requirements on operators, it puts requirements on the software providers in some sense and other actors of the ecosystem. And I would say orchestration does really, or will really play a crucial role in autonomously driven vehicles. Mm. Good. So just to summarize a bit, so where are we today? We are looking at, or first of all, maybe let's wind back. Where do we come from? So we come from low data usages, as you have explained previously. We were looking at e-call use cases, telematics use cases, which effectively have not driven high data use cases. We have been looking at deployments for specific regions, no global deployments as such. And this is definitely changing. We are looking at global deployments, OEMs that require that their connectivity works wherever they go, without the need to have specific variants of their vehicles or connectivity units in their cars. So wherever they ship them, once the cars have been built, it should just work. And then this leads us to where we are today, and we are looking at high data use cases, which are primarily driven by requirements and use cases like video streaming, kids in the back screaming, we want streaming. So this does put requirement on OEMs. It does also put requirements on hardware manufacturers, but then also not at least requirements on operators like Telenor IoT. We are looking at use cases that would require better analytic skills, analytic capabilities, and bring all this to a mix. It really carves out what kind of player you need to be in this industry in order to succeed, to go forward. So, as I said, video streaming, it does really, in some sense, put requirements on capacities, put requirements on speed, latency, things like that. And we are seeing a transition where use cases have been based on usage of a couple of kilobytes, hundreds of kilobytes, to usage patterns that exceed the gigabyte, the one-digit gigabyte scenarios. We are looking at auto deployments, which require, in some sense, high data transfer rates, but also those updates are usually packages that are several gigabytes large. So a lot of things that are being put on us as a requirement, but we see this as a challenge and also as an opportunity to provide the proper services and the proper technology that supports that.
And to add that, again, another feature that is driving a lot of data usage is all the sensors that the car have today that are collecting a lot of information about its surroundings. And the sensors, they do this to actually train algorithms and make sure that the car one day will be able to drive autonomously. Sorry. And I mean, we can see this like in certain countries, this is already happening. We see up to maybe 100 gigabytes of data being used per month due to this development, where it's still in a very, very early phase in other parts of the world.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I would say that to illustrate this even further, trends or there are certain indications that show that in some way, in 3 years' time, we will be tripling the amount of data that is transmitted over the mobile networks in some way. Since 2023 until 2028, we will have an increase of 3 times. And what do the numbers that we have in front of us really show? Exabytes. We are consuming 10 exabytes today, roughly. 30 or more than 30 in 2028. This would constitute to 7.5 billion HD movies. That is quite a lot. And I think that you are catching the drift where we are heading and what requirements this puts on every single player in the ecosystem.
And as we could see on the previous slide, automotive is the largest vertical from a data perspective. It's also the largest IoT vertical from an overall revenue perspective. So, but this is also a vertical that comes with a lot of requirements, and that is really the essence of the IoT predictions report with the connected car guides the way. Because we as an operator, normally the requirements that we get from the market, they normally come first from automakers, and then we see them spreading to other verticals too. And it is, of course, as we were talking about, the very high demand for data that is to a large degree driving this shift, that technology will help us to enable. We talk about a lot of costs, we talk about a lot of coverage, and although it might seem easy to deploy our connected solutions, we know that it's not. We have worked, as I said, both on the telco side and seeing the challenges and struggles that we face to make sure that the solutions that we are on top of things. But we also know all the tricky decisions car makers are confronted with each and every day when they need to build their solutions. There are so many decisions, so many options that you need to consider. And one big thing to put together is what we here talk about as connectivity orchestration. And you could say somehow from a car OEM perspective, given the huge amount of data that car OEMs are using, you could ask yourself, like, why are not car OEMs becoming MVNOs? They are sometimes just as big as MVNOs or MNOs. So they more or less could operate their own solution. Why do they need to go through companies like us? Well, being an operator comes with quite a lot of work. And we therefore see that most automakers, they have learned that it's beneficial to partner with companies that are specialized in this industry and know what to build and how to operate these type of solutions. But how do you then build and scale a solution globally? How do you pick your partners and decide who to work with and not to work with, what to do on your own, and what to let someone else do? Putting this big puzzle together is not easy. And as we try to illustrate now on the picture that we look at, there are many layers and platform and capabilities to consider. If we see where this industry started, most customers of ours, they maybe selected one big global MNO that could serve their needs on a global scale, which is also very much our value proposition and go-to-market, that we also can support such a use case under the concept of one. So more or less you could buy everything from one partner and you would be taken care of globally. But what we have seen in the last couple of years is that car OEMs and other, of course, also customers in other verticals that have large global data-heavy deployments, they normally pick a selection of partners that they work with on a regional basis, on a local basis. This can be driven by cost or technical needs, but it also, as we see today, is driven by regulation. That sometimes a roaming solution will not work in a specific market and you need to choose a local partner. Sometimes also you let your connectivity partner fix that challenge for you. So in addition to having many MNO and MVNO or connectivity partners, we also see now, due to the high amounts of data that are being transmitted, that car OEMs are also considering, as you mentioned, other technologies as a complement to cellular. Wi-Fi is currently a topic that right now is being explored, and we see trials in different parts of the world where specific use cases in the car maybe can be executed over Wi-Fi instead over cellular. Example of that could be an over-the-air update, I would say, because that is not time critical, so you could rather wait until the car is on a Wi-Fi network. Then we also see a lot of satellite, a lot of interest in satellite, and I think we see a lot of announcements in the industry about cooperations with satellite providers. And this is then rather as a backup, but to secure coverage, also maybe in rural areas or where you currently struggle with your connectivity solution. And suddenly you start to have a lot of partners out there. And how do you then know which partner or which technology to use where? And getting this whole ecosystem together is quite challenging. It comes with a lot of work. So let's look at the next next picture, which is a visualization of how these ecosystems could look like, where companies like ours and of course other players in this ecosystem could help you to build a scalable solution that works. We come from a world where many IoT companies started to work with one MNO provider that helped them to connect their solutions globally. And this is still a very important go-to-market for us. We can support our customers globally, but we also understand that the customers might want to have different partners as part of their networks. And today it's not only MNO partners providing cellular connectivity. As we said before, it can also be Wi-Fi partners and providers of satellite connectivity as fallback technology to the cellular technology. And in order to orchestrate this technology, you need platforms and systems to make choices for you and hold things together. Aggregation platforms are needed, but as well you need a lot of business logics that ties the solution also together with the car OEM infrastructure. And here we talk about systems that contain information about the home market of specific products, maybe what type of solution it should have active or not, the use cases, and if it's a high-end or a low-end product that might decide on the solution that this product should actually have activated. And we see that with the help of data, both in the cloud, but also using AI in edge, in the device, it is possible to orchestrate and steer the right use of connectivity technology throughout the life cycle of the vehicle. And this is what this picture tries to illustrate. I didn't touch upon the remote SIM provisioning part here. We will come to that very, very soon. But before we go into that, let's look at another challenging aspect that also determines how to build your puzzle, how to put your ecosystem together as a car OEM. And it's the fact that cars are no longer pure IoT products that use telematics, as we also talked about earlier. We also see that internet has moved into the car. Cars are smartphone on wheels or living room on wheels, as we tend to hear from the market, where the end users also enjoy internet like they do on their tablets or in their phone. And this change means that there are new things to think about. There is new regulation to consider, and there is also new business models to have in consideration. To what extent do you want to include connectivity in your vehicles, and to what extent you want to build services and subscriptions on top? And these two driving forces, the regulation and the new business model, puts requirements on the MNO provider of choice to make sure that the car OEMs can roll out the business models and the solutions they want. So this is highly also impacting what providers you can use where, and why it might not be possible to only have one. And with that said, let's not dive deep into this topic and move over to our second challenge that we listed as part of the IoT predictions report, which is
eSIM and eUICC.
Yeah.
Which actually solves one part of that puzzle that you just mentioned. It's not easy, or it's not easy to have only one MNO that provides a service. Sometimes you have to have more than one MNO for regulatory purposes, where permanent roaming in some way is not allowed. So there needs to be a technology that supports you to swap profiles, to swap SIM profiles or MNO profiles to the one that is required in that specific country. And all of this has been existing for quite some time, but it has been improved by technology that I have touched upon before, the SGP32 technology. It reduces complexity compared to SGP02 and SGP22, but it does not come without an effort. It is a transitional period where we are in. and a lot of customers of ours from different verticals are actually requesting updates on SGP32 and what it brings and what value it brings to their business. But regardless of the fact that you have a flexible solution, a technical solution that allows you to swap profiles, it is not really a silver bullet. It solves a technical aspect, but you still need to have commercial agreements in place if you want to swap a profile to a local profile where required. Hence, you as a car OEM or any other company requiring IoT services absolutely need to work hand in hand with your IoT provider, MNO provider, to make sure which countries you want to target, and that MNO provider needs to provide you access to that network, and for that we require, or commercial agreements are required to be in place. We are definitely in an exciting area with this eSIM and eUICC together with SGP32. And we are sure that we as a company, as MNO provider, are able to address these challenges in a professional and technical manner and make sure that we get the best out of it for the industry and for the users that are using these services. Which of course brings us then into the topic of lifecycle management. Lifecycle management is a very important aspect that one needs to consider from different angles. There are certain regulations that we have touched upon, regulations that require certain adaptations on a technical level, but also on a commercial level. And these things needs to be assessed when you are trying to deploy or when you are actually deploying your service before you do that. And this comes along with the cost aspects and quality aspects. A cost aspect, why do we think that is important? A cost aspect, if you consider that you deploy a service and deploy an IoT solution into the world, you can absolutely run into issues in 5 years' time if you have not monitored the regulatory landscape.
And do you know,
yeah.
Sorry, now I break in here. I recently read an ASEA report, and it actually stated the average age of a car in Europe. And do you know how old an average car is on European roads?
I would say more than 15 years.
Yeah, close to that. It actually stated 12 years. That is the European fleet is about that old. So it really shows the importance of managing things from a life cycle perspective.
Exactly. The choices that you make today will be in that car, in that vehicle, or in your IoT device for many, many years. So making the right decisions is quite important, and for that it is even more important to partner up with a provider that knows about this and knows what is ahead and has the right view on the market and on the technological trends that are ahead of us.
Exactly. And people might wonder, why have we put this turtle on the slide that you currently see? And it's really about that the eSIM technology shields you from life cycle aspects of what is happening out there.
Exactly. Exciting times. But what we as a company feel is that it just needs to work. Many car OEMs, it's not their core business to provide connectivity services. It's not their core business to know about connectivity in general. So partnering up with the right partner, with the right provider, needs and implicates that it just needs to work. That is what we try to deliver and are succeeding with it quite a lot. And do not forget about other partnerships that are relevant in this aspect as well. So partnerships will need to be formed, are being formed as we speak, and the whole landscape is being changed just because of that, because there is not one single provider that can provide you with everything you need. So partnering up with the right company and the right service is very important. And in the very end, all of this needs to be supported with analytics and data, which becomes even more important in an age where data is everywhere and you can build decisions based on data and do things based on data even more than you have been able to do so before.
And finally, looking a little bit into future trends and predictions. But before we do that, I think, as it's said on the last slide that we looked at, everything we do here is about securing an excellent user experience. I think providers like us, this is just my personal view, we have been very focused on like providing tools and technologies for our B2B customers, in this case the car OEMs, making sure that they can operate their solution, have insights into their solution, and can deliver a connected car at the end. But I think it's important for us as a company and our partners as well to also fully realize that we are doing a good job when the end users of the car OEMs are happy.
And hardly noticing that there's connectivity
Exactly.
behind.
They should never notice us.
Exactly.
They should never notice us because that means that things work.
Exactly.
Exactly. And looking into the future trends and predictions, in the IoT predictions report, we lifted up a third critical area, quite challenging area right now, and it's the cybersecurity area. In this webinar, we will lift up a couple of trends that we see are impacting car OEMs and ourselves, in addition to cybersecurity, which we'll touch upon as well. And the first one you have already mentioned a little bit, and it's the importance of data. And I think the critical part for the future is about understanding how to combine the data from different data sources, from us, potentially our partners, and the car OEM itself, to fully understand the end user experience. For example, if we say that we have a little bit of a problem with the availability of connectivity here in Gothenburg, what does that actually mean for the users in Gothenburg that are using different services? That is what's interesting for the car OEM at the end. So how can we combine that information they have with our information to really make sure that end to end we have a full view of the end user experience?
Indeed.
So we are not really there yet, but I hope we will be in a couple of years.
Data is gold. In an era where we are looking at the rise of AI, good AI, harmful AI in some cases, we need to make sure that we use this data in many different aspects, and security is one of these aspects. You could, with the help of data and with preemptive analyses, identify that there are breaches in the systems, breaches to any parts in the ecosystem that a car is living in. So with the rise of AI, with the rise of software-defined vehicles, we are looking at an increased area of attack, a potential increased area of attack. And if cars are in some way under attack and are compromised during an attack, one can only think of the effects that this can have. Mm. A car traveling at any speed, at high speeds on a highway, being compromised at the same time, let's not think about the cause this can have. So here it is very important to highlight that in such a new world with everything that is happening around and the pace of development of things, we need to work together. So it is not only the hardware manufacturer that works on themselves, the software provider working on themselves, or the MNO. It's a combination of forces that need to be brought into the fold and identify their different security aspects and in some way combine them. So we are working together with car OEMs today to identify threats quite early on and to evaluate the whole ecosystem of the solution to make sure that cars are safe and their passengers specifically are being safe. We also assume that within the next decade, at least one automaker will see its market value cut in half just because of a cybersecurity breach. And if it's the revenue that is cut in half, that is maybe one thing, and it is important, of course, but to save lives and to make sure that lives are being saved, that is maybe an even more important aspect.
And finally, I think we all know what I'm about to say. Another trend really shaping the future of connected cars in this case is politics. We have for many years talked about global solutions and to deliver connectivity on a global scale. But we very much see today that the world is becoming less global in a way. So a current observation that we have made is that many car OEMs, they are not building up global solutions anymore. They are very much building up regional solutions, securing that data and solutions are regionalized. So instead of having one central hub for everything, you start to spread it out to regionalize operational and data management, because there is a lot of uncertainty how things will develop. And this, of course, also at the end boils down to the very tricky question that we have mentioned a couple of times today, which is regulation. I wouldn't say that it's the biggest challenge, but it's one of the biggest challenges that car OEMs are faced with today. Everything from permanent roaming to data needs to be localized, and then we have this open internet access in the car as well that comes with a completely different set of regulation to counter. And we have the cybersecurity regulation that is now coming in from all angles. So regulation is having such a powerful position, I think, in the way you can design your solutions. And we, of course, try to help and be a partner in that as well, in the areas where we have a lot of expertise. And with that said, I guess we could lift up many different challenges and future trends. But finally, to summarize what we have been talking about today, we said that the connected car guides the way. We have talked about putting your puzzle together with connectivity providers of different kinds, platforms, AI, securing a logical solution in the way you deploy the technology. We talked about the eSIM development and how this technology really fits into this big puzzle that car OEMs are working with. The importance of creating great user experience, because that is the end, that what creates value for the end users, and the challenges related to data security and the politics and the regulation that we face out there. But we also said in the beginning that this predictions report is not only about cars, it's also about how this will impact other verticals. So maybe, although you and I are very much focused on cars in our daily work, what is your take on this from a broader perspective? Will the things that we have brought up here today impact others too?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. It will. It will impact automotive, as we said, as they are the front runner of technology evolution. But other verticals will not be spared. They will be facing the same aspects and the same challenges.
Yeah. So we can conclude that we, as an industry, develop new great technologies to solve different business problems. But we also see that there is a lot of complexity coming with those solutions and what is happening around us. So our, I would say, final key takeaway is really about building partnerships that you trust in, so we can do this and solve this together.
Fully agree.
Good, thank you.
So here I think we make a cut and finalize our discussions. I hope it has been helpful and has been providing you with some valuable insights on the daily work that we are in and the trends that we see in front of us. And we hope to see you soon in the next webinar. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.